All right, listeners, ready to dive into another book with us?
Always ready for a good book.
For episode 40, we're taking a look at Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
This one is a really pivotal book in the series, you know?
Oh, absolutely. The stakes get so much higher.
Yeah, and so many of the little details and character moments in this book.
They really foreshadow the big events in the last book, don't they?
For sure, like that scene right at the beginning with the Muggle Prime Minister meeting Fudge.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's like that first sign that the magical and Muggle worlds are about to collide.
Definitely adds to that feeling of impending doom, doesn't it?
Totally. And then, bam, we're thrown into that intense scene with Narcissa and Bellatrix.
Oh, man. Narcissa's not messing around. She's pulling out her wand on her own sister.
And Bellatrix is no pushover either, but Narcissa is just so fiercely protective of Draco.
Like she'd do anything to save him, wouldn't she?
It really makes you wonder how far she'll go.
It's definitely foreshadowing some of the choices she makes later on.
Absolutely. Speaking of making choices, let's talk about Snape.
Oh, Snape always shrouded in mystery.
We see him in that meeting with Narcissa and Bellatrix, and then again with Wormtail.
And his demeanor is so different in those two scenes, isn't it?
With Narcissa, there's a sense of respect, almost sympathy.
But with Wormtail, it's like he's disgusted by him.
It makes you question his loyalty to Voldemort, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Like, is he a true Death Eater, or is there more to his story?
He's always keeping us guessing. But then we move on to a completely different scene.
Yeah, we go from the darkness of the Death Eaters to the bright lights of Privet Drive.
Where Dumbledore arrives to collect Harry.
And you could just feel Dumbledore's authority in that scene, can't you?
It's like he doesn't even need magic to command attention.
He completely shuts down Uncle Vernon with just a look.
It's a good reminder of Dumbledore's power.
And then we learn about Sirius's will and how he's left Grimmauld Place to Harry.
That's a pretty complicated inheritance, isn't it?
Oh yeah, on the one hand, it's Harry's last connection to Sirius, but on the other,
it's a gloomy house filled with painful memories.
I can't imagine wanting to live there.
And Dumbledore points out that 17 is the age of majority in the wizarding world.
So Harry's suddenly responsible for this big old house, whether he likes it or not.
Talk about a dose of reality.
But Dumbledore doesn't give him much time to dwell on that, does he?
Nope, they're off to recruit Horace Slughorn back to Hogwarts.
And Slughorn's not exactly making it easy for them, is he?
He's gone to great lengths to disappear.
Like he's running from something or someone?
It definitely makes you curious about what secrets he's hiding.
And then he just casually brings up Sirius's death, which totally throws Harry off.
Yeah, you can tell Harry's still really grieving.
And Dumbledore is so good with him in that moment, isn't he?
He just understands Harry's pain without him having to say anything.
It's a really touching moment. And then we're whisked away to the Weasleys' house.
Which is such a stark contrast to the previous scene.
It's like a burst of warmth and happiness.
But even amidst all that Weasley chaos, there's this underlying tension.
Yeah, Mr. Weasley is worried about those dangerous magical artifacts being sold, aren't you?
Like the metamorph metals, he's especially concerned about those.
They sound kind of cool, though, being able to change your appearance at will.
Well, apparently they have some pretty nasty side effects.
Okay, maybe not so cool then. But beyond the danger, we also get those little insights into
the different characters' views on love and relationships.
Mrs. Weasley is all about true love and destiny, while Ginny's a bit more realistic.
It's an interesting contrast, isn't it?
Like Mrs. Weasley sees love through rose-colored glasses.
Maybe because of her own happy marriage.
And then there's Hermione and her little accident with the cursed telescope.
Ending up with a black eye, poor Hermione.
But even that scene has this underlying sense of anxiety, doesn't it?
Like a reminder that danger is lurking everywhere.
And then, of course, there's the OWL exams looming over everyone.
Who doesn't remember the stress of exams?
Even in the wizarding world, exams are a big deal.
Especially for someone like Hermione, who always wants to do her best.
And speaking of pressure, Harry's facing a whole other level of stress, isn't he?
He's got this prophecy hanging over his head and Voldemort breathing down his neck.
It's no wonder he's thinking about becoming an Auror.
It's a huge decision to make at his age.
But while Harry's focused on saving the world, Draco's up to something shady, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's being all secretive and meeting with unsavory characters.
Like Borgin and that creepy werewolf Fenrir Greyback.
It definitely raises some red flags for Harry.
And then it's back to Hogwarts on the Hogwarts Express.
Which is usually a time for celebration, but this year it feels different.
There's a definite sense of unease in the air, isn't there?
Everyone's on edge knowing that Voldemort is out there.
Harry can't even escape the whispers and rumors about him being the chosen one.
It's like he can never just be a normal teenager.
Although his encounter with Luna Lovegood is a nice bright spot.
Luna's always a breath of fresh air, isn't she?
She sees the good in everything, even in a group like the DA.
And then we see Malfoy acting completely out of character.
Skipping his prefect duties and just moping around.
It's like he's completely withdrawn from everything.
Which just makes Harry even more suspicious of him.
And then Malfoy goes and attacks Harry, breaking his nose and stepping on his hand.
It's a brutal scene that shows just how cruel Malfoy can be.
And of course, Snape catches Harry hiding under his invisibility cloak.
You can practically feel the animosity radiating off of Snape in that moment.
There's definitely some deep-seated resentment there.
Speaking of deep-seated resentment, have you heard of the Bookspace app?
Oh yeah, it's a great app for book lovers.
You can connect with other readers, share quotes, and organize your library.
It's like a social media platform just for books.
And it would be perfect for keeping track of all those spells and potions in this book.
Or for organizing that ever-growing TBR pile we all have.
Totally. So if you haven't already, download Bookspace and join the community.
But now back to Hogwarts, where things are about to get even more intense.
Dumbledore addresses the students at the start of term feast, doesn't he?
But it's not your typical welcome back speech.
It's more like a call to arms, a warning about the threat of Voldemort.
He's really preparing them for what's to come.
And even Hagrid, who's usually so optimistic.
He expresses his worry about Hogwarts possibly closing down.
It's a chilling thought that this safe haven might be lost.
And then there's the first Defense Against the Dark Arts lesson with Snape.
Which is a far cry from the lessons they've had in previous years.
Snape is all business. He knows that they need to be prepared to fight.
It's a sign of how serious the situation has become.
And even in this tense environment, Hermione still manages to excel.
She's always a step ahead, isn't she?
But even her brilliance can't completely dispel the sense of dread that's hanging over Hogwarts.
It's like a storm is brewing and everyone's bracing for impact.
This is just the beginning. Things are about to get a whole lot more complicated.
So stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the mysteries of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
So much happened in that last section.
Right, like where do we even begin?
I guess we should start with that Mysterious Potions book.
The Half-Blood Prince's book.
Yeah, it's like Harry has this secret mentor, but we have no idea who it is.
That's such a tantalizing mystery, isn't it?
Totally. And then Dumbledore takes us on a little trip down memory lane.
Back to that creepy orphanage where he met Tom Riddle.
Yeah, and we learned some interesting things about young Tom Riddle in that scene.
Like how he's already showing signs of being a psychopath.
Right, his fascination with controlling people and causing harm.
And how he keeps trophies of his victims. It's pretty disturbing.
It's like a foreshadowing of the Horcruxes, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. But back to Harry, he's got a lot on his plate, doesn't he?
Dealing with his feelings for Ginny, try and figure out Malfoy, and then there's Voldemort.
Like, how do you even begin to process all that?
It's a lot for a teenager to handle, that's for sure.
And he's still grieving Sirius, too. We can't forget that.
Oh yeah, that grief is definitely still there lurking beneath the surface.
Which might explain why he decides to use that Felix Felicis potion.
Liquid luck. Pretty risky move though, don't you think?
Oh yeah, because you're essentially giving up control, aren't you?
You're letting fate decide your course of action.
And wouldn't you know it, that potion leads him straight to Hagrid's hut.
Of all the places he could have ended up.
It's like the potion knew what it was doing.
I mean, it all works out in the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, Harry gets that crucial memory from Slughorn, and he gets to help Hagrid with Aragog.
It's a really emotional scene, that burial.
Oh yeah, definitely brings back all those feels from when we first met Aragog.
So many years ago. But back to that memory from Slughorn, it's a game changer.
It finally reveals Voldemort's plan, doesn't it?
His obsession with immortality. His interest in Horcruxes.
And the fact that he wants to split his soul into 7 parts.
Yeah, that's where things get really dark.
Like, how do you even split your soul into that many pieces?
It's a question that Harry is desperate to answer.
So now we're in full-on Horcrux territory.
And the stakes have just been raised exponentially.
It's not just about defeating Voldemort anymore, is it?
It's about finding and destroying these hidden pieces of his soul.
And Harry's the only one who can do it.
He's the chosen one, remember?
But it's a lot of pressure for one person to bear.
And he's still got to deal with Malfoy, who's getting creepier by the day.
Those secret visits to the Room of Requirement. What's he up to?
It's definitely not good, whatever it is.
And then we find out that he was behind that attack on Katie Bell.
That was a terrifying scene, wasn't it?
It shows just how far Malfoy is willing to go.
And that Voldemort is no longer just hiding in the shadows.
He's actively targeting innocent people, even students at Hogwarts.
Which is why Harry decides to take matters into his own hands.
He enlists the help of Kreacher and Dobby to spy on Malfoy.
The house elf duo to the rescue.
It's good to see Harry taking charge, being more proactive.
He's really maturing as a wizard.
But he's still got to deal with his feelings for Ginny.
Young love in the time of Voldemort.
It's not exactly a recipe for a smooth relationship, is it?
But their connection is definitely a source of strength for Harry.
Even if he tries to deny it.
But let's not forget about the Horcruxes. Harry's still trying to figure out how to find them.
And then there's that whole debacle with the fake locket.
That was a major setback, wasn't it?
All that risk, and for what a fake.
You'd think Dumbledore would have been able to tell it was a fake.
I know, right? But there is a clue. That note signed R.A.B.
Ooh, mysterious. Who is R.A.B.?
And why did they take the real Horcrux?
It's a whole new layer of the mystery.
So now Harry has a new mission to find R.A.B.
Which is going to be a lot easier said than done.
But before we get into that, we have to address the big event that changes everything.
Dumbledore's death.
It's like the whole wizarding world shifts on its axis when that happens.
It leaves a huge void, doesn't it?
And it throws everything into chaos.
Even Hogwarts isn't safe anymore.
There's talk of closing the school down.
Which is a scary thought, isn't it?
Hogwarts is supposed to be this safe haven for young witches and wizards.
But Voldemort's influence is spreading everywhere.
And then Harry makes a decision that shocks everyone.
He decides not to return to Hogwarts.
What?
Yeah, he's choosing to go after the Horcruxes instead.
It's a huge decision to make.
He's basically giving up his childhood.
To save the wizarding world.
It's a lot to ask of anyone, let alone a teenager.
But that's Harry. For you always putting others before himself.
Well, he's the bravest wizard I know.
So much happened in that last part. I'm still reeling.
I know, right? It's like one bombshell after another.
Dumbledore's death. That was just...
devastating.
It really was. And to find out that Snape was the one who...
Yeah, the betrayal, it's almost too much to handle.
It makes you question everything you thought you knew about Snape.
Like, was he always a Death Eater? Or was there something else going on?
It's a mystery that I guess we'll have to wait for the last book to fully unravel.
And then there's the whole mystery of the fake Horcrux.
Right, like who would go through all that trouble to create a fake?
And why? What was the point?
It's like someone's playing a very twisted game with Harry.
And that note sign, R.A.B., it just adds another layer to the mystery.
So now Harry has this new mission to find R.A.B. and the real Horcrux.
Which is going to be incredibly dangerous.
Especially with Voldemort gaining more and more power.
And Hogwarts is in turmoil, too.
With Dumbledore gone, it feels like the school has lost its protector.
And there's talk of closing it down altogether.
Which would be a huge loss for the wizarding world.
It's like their whole way of life is under threat.
But even amidst all this darkness, Harry finds some light in his relationship with Ginny.
Ah, young love, it's a powerful thing.
It gives Harry a sense of normalcy and hope in a time when everything feels chaotic.
But ultimately, he knows he can't stay with her.
He has to make a choice between his personal happiness and the fate of the wizarding world.
And he chooses the latter.
It's a selfless act that shows how much Harry has matured.
He's willing to sacrifice everything to defeat Voldemort.
Even if it means leaving behind the people he loves.
So as we come to the end of this book, we're left with a sense of both hope and trepidation.
Hope that Harry will succeed in his mission.
But also fear for what he might have to endure along the way.
The Half-Blood Prince leaves us with so many unanswered questions and a sense of impending doom.
It's a brilliant setup for the final showdown with Voldemort.
I can't wait to see how it all ends.
Me neither.
No,
but until then, we'll just have to keep rereading and theorizing.
And for those of you who want to join the discussion, be sure to check out the Bookspace app.
It's the perfect place to connect with other Harry Potter fans and share your thoughts.
So until next time, keep reading, keep exploring, and keep the magic alive.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.